Hello, my name is Sean Ennis, and welcome to Mixed and Mastered, the show that gives you an inside look into the minds responsible for creating the music for your favorite songs. Yes, the producers. Today I'm joined by a special guest. Can you say your name, where you're from, and how you got your start in music?
Yes, my name is Poetiq. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I got my start in music just by playing instruments, starting off with the alto saxophone.
Wow, so you played the sax, and were you self-taught, or did you get lessons?
I played all the way through school as a kid. I've been playing since I was 7 years old, and so I didn't really, get any lessons for it. It was just, through school at first, and then in a little bit of college that I did attend, I would play there and get take some classes and such on it there, and now I just play everywhere.
And wow, that's kind of sort of rare these days to hear that someone plays the saxophone. What initially got you interested and made you want to play the sax?
Well, when I was a kid, going into middle school, they made everyone in 5th grade start, playing instruments. They just made you pick out one, and if you just absolutely hated it, then you didn't have to go into band class going into middle school. So I had one of those magical moments that I still remember, where almost every instrument I picked up, I liked, and it just felt right. Like I just knew where to put my hands. I just knew how to form my mouth. I just knew how to just sit with the instrument. And I remember that distinctly because my teacher was just kind of like, wow, you could be real good. And then I remember, I'm trying out a bunch of different instruments, and I got to the saxophone, and I just fell in love with how it sounded. Everything about it, it just felt like me, just felt like character. And right then and there, I just knew it was something that I did not want to stop playing.
And did you play any other instruments?
Yes, I play a couple others. I play keys, I play drums, alto sax, but I play tenor sax as well. I play trumpet, and I play clarinet.
Wow, that's really impressive. So let me ask you, how do you feel playing these real instruments has affected and helped you as a producer?
It's crazy. When I first started producing, or even just being around producers, I used to think to myself, like, how can you produce if you don't know instruments? How can you produce if you don't play music? And now I find that, just with the technology out there, when you're working through MIDI and just copying, make this, but for me, it's like having the technology to do what I want, which just further enhances the creativity, and still adding that musicianship in there. For me, it just creates a signature sound, and it just creates something that whenever I make it, I know that people will listen to it and say, "Oh yeah, Poetiq made that," because it's a different. It just brings that production to like a higher level. It just steps it up. It just gives everything a different element. And I try to incorporate live instrumentation with the synthesizers that you hear in everyday music, and still have the production mind of mixing, and really mixing and getting in there and just really focusing on the sounds within the sounds on a record, and it just produces something that I think is just, it's just of a different magnitude than what an everyday producer can make. So,
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree, because a lot of producers today don't even play any instruments.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the ones I know, they don't play any instruments at all, and they barely even use MIDI. They just, may just use an actual computer keyboard, just, copy paste. That's cool. That's totally cool. But for me, just going along with my lyrics and just everything that I try to bring to the table, I know that my musicianship has really enhanced and been a part of it.
When you first started producing, what sort of technology and instruments were you using initially?
So when I first started producing, I had a very, very small budget. I was working part-time at minimum wage and just, retail stores. So I just used whatever I can get my hands on. I remember at that time, I went to Best Buy and I bought this Cakewalk package. Like, it was a basic version of Cakewalk, and it came with like a USB mic, a Samson mic. And I had my keyboard that my parents bought me. That was a Yamaha, but they bought it for me when I was 16. And at the time, I didn't really start producing until I was 19, so it was already a little older by comparison, And then I'm not using the greatest technology, but, at the same time, it got me through. I started doing all types of interesting things with the little bit that I had, and it just really helped me to grow. Whatever you got, you can make it sound like a million if you take your time with it. Because now that same program that is not even available anymore, I still use on some really basic stuff even now, and you would never notice it. I mean, when you combine that when you side sling it with like Pro Tools, I mean, no one would ever notice that I would do some of that I make my sound sets and stuff like that with that same $60 program that's now 10 years old. But now of course I use my main one is I think it's Sonar LE Professional. It's the main one that I use. I use Pro Tools whenever I'm sampling live instruments, and Fruity Loops every now and again for some specific sounds and some rhythms that I can't really do as easily on either of the two. It all sounds great.
And that's one of the reasons that I really love asking that question about what were producers using when they first started to make their first pieces of music, because technology has really jumped so far forward in such a short span of time, and it seems like a lot of producers that have been producing for a number of years, had to be really creative initially when they got started, because the technology wasn't where it's at now. So let me ask you, you use Sonar LE Professional now to do a lot of your work. What do you like about this?
Outside of the fact that to me it's a bit easier to use in Pro Tools, I like the settings that it comes with. Like a lot of the stock preferences, like all the way down to like some of their stock presets for compressors and even some EQs are really dope. And for it to come stock with such dope stuff, that by itself was a win-win. Because when you get Pro Tools, you have to really invest in it. You can get a Pro Tools package for maybe $100 or $200, yeah, but it's not going to come with anything. It's just going to be standard, It's not going to come with much stuff other than a high grade way to record, And when you get something like Sonar Professional, you get that same HD level, but you also get some pretty good sounds, some pretty good presets, so that if you are just starting, or if you're just trying to fool around it, just kind of get your feet wet, it is perfect. Like, it is perfect for you. I suggest it to anyone who's really working to get started, to try not to just dive into Pro Tools and these styles, because these softwares that are out there, just the software by itself can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. And my thing is, if I'm going to invest into something like that, then I need some pretty good results. I need to know that I can just get started with it. I need to know that I can have the confidence to just make stuff. Because, or for the stuff that pretty much make itself. Because that's a lot of money. The everyday person have that kind of money. I totally get that. I'm an everyday person. So for me, just the investment in the Sonar Professional and the presets and the sounds that it comes with, and how easy it is to even set up your add-ons, like my controller and my interface. It's really, really good, and it's smooth to work with. It doesn't skip. It doesn't overpower your hard drive. It's just a smooth sail. So that's just some stuff that I really love about it.
And what do you like about Fruity Loops?
Fruity Loops is cool. Fruity Loops is also very easy to work with. For me, what I love about Fruity Loops is the way they set up is the way they set up their loops. Like the way they actually have their I'm trying to think of the appropriate way to say it. The way they have their MIDI set up. So like being able to try to click out something to get like a 36th, on a hi-hat is so much simpler than trying to, do it and manipulate it on other DAW softwares. It's just really simple to work with. And I like the presets and the sounds that it comes with. So it comes with some amazing sounds and some amazing percussion. And you don't get there's some sounds that are with Fruity Loops that you just don't get anywhere else besides with Fruity Loops.
Now, you have a really unique and wonderful producer name. Can you tell me how you decided on your producer name?
Well, I'm an artist as well, and I started writing poetry, and very shortly after I started playing saxophone, and I just kind of found that my overall sound, even when I was just doing open mics and stuff and just playing sax and doing poetry, or playing keys and doing poetry over it, it just all just flowed, and I started calling it, the music itself that I would create, I called it poetry in motion. And to match that poetry in motion with the actual poetry that I was writing and the lyrics that were developing from the poems that I created, Poetiq just seemed to just fit. My brother had, because I was doing some like poetry contests and slam poems and stuff like that throughout school and high school more so, my brother had said, you need a stage name. What about Poetic Justice? And I thought that was cool, just a little bit too long. And so I kept it as Poetiq, and after that it just really resonated and stuck with me.
Can you take me through your music making process?
I could try. I could try. Sometimes I catch myself making the melody first. Sometimes I catch myself making the production, or making the percussion first. But usually it's melody. So I might just be sitting around and have something in my head, and then I'll just lay it down with just a piano sound. Just a straight piano sound. Nothing else on top of it. Just something so I can kind of get in the groove of this melody. And then all of a sudden, when I really feel the tempo and I just really feel my head nodding a certain way, I might start beatboxing, which is something that I just kind of caught on from Timbaland that he does. And then I just start laying out sounds that match where I'm beatboxing. And then from there, I might say, okay, now I need something, I need something catchy. I need like, an additional pattern. So I'll try to come up with like a counter melody to go with what I just laid down. And next thing I know, I'm saying to myself, okay, so it feels like you're building a hook. Let's try to formulate this in 8 bars. So then I make sure I mold everything down to 8 bars. Then I may be like, all right, now we have a dope loop, but it needs something on top. So now I try to find like an effect or something unique or different that way lets people know that, the kick to the song is coming. That lets people know that the chorus is coming or the breakdown is coming. And then I'll find that sound. And before I know it, I have a song. I just will go back and formulate, actually like format the loops that I created, and then come up in the mixing with some drops and some cool ways to really, build upon the foundation that I already laid out. And now that song becomes the record.
Wow, that's fascinating. I love your process. I can imagine that you come up with some very, very unique and different sounding music just by your process, alternating between the percussion and the melody, doing the beatboxing,
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I've had a couple people that have just, I've actually had people that have just paid just to come watch me work, just because they want to be a part of the learning process. And, they've said the exact same thing, that it's unique, that it's new, that it's fresh, and they really enjoy it. And I consider it all to be a part of entertainment just as much as it is about production. Because if you're not entertained by what you're creating, and if you're not having fun with it, nobody else will. Nobody else will. So I just try to keep it fresh and keep coming up with new stuff. And I'm never afraid to put different sound patches together that I've never heard, or doubling up sounds and making something new that no one else has created. I'm always trying to be forward thinking, and I'm always trying to be ear catching at the same time. Something that really lets people know like they can vibe to it. That way, when it's time for the vocalist to lay their stuff, whether it's myself or somebody else, they can just hear it and know exactly what they're gonna say. And that's the kind of music that I want to make. I want to make music that makes itself.
Now, is there a song that you've produced and released that you're really proud of that you'd like to talk about?
I actually have I'm actually dropping a project technically once a month throughout the summer. And so I have a song that I put out recently. It's called I'm That. And I'm rapping on it. I did the whole song at home. And it'll be on my album that'll be released next week, titled Renaissance. And that song by itself is one of my favorites because it's the really, on a production level, it's like the perfect blend of like contemporary hip hop, and even if you're talking sounds, like the perfect synthesizers blended with live instrumentation. It's like in the same background, you hear like the cool guitar riff that gives the song some edge, and then you'll hear the trumpets in the background just like guiding you to the next bar, and then when the lyrics are on top, it just kind of gives this whole, excuse my language, badass story, it just gives it a feel, and it's so different. And if you're listening to it in headphones, you get things coming from the left, you got things coming from the right, and it's going, down the center. It's like your mind is so like caught up in just just feeling the groove and the vibe of the record. And it's on YouTube. It is the first single from my upcoming album, and the video is out as well. And that's definitely one of my babies. One of my babies for the record, for sure.
What makes you want to work with a particular artist?
What makes me work with a particular artist would just have to be their sound and just overall how their lyrical personality is shown, or is presented through the work. I feel like there are some artists out there that write and it can be really dope. Like the lyrics can be really dope, but it just sounds like they're reading off a page. And I feel like there are some artists out there that can write, and when you hear the record, it just sounds like they're giving their all on the record. And they could be talking about nothing, but you just feel it, If I can just feel the personality in your lyrics, if I can just feel you just as much as I hear you, you're the artist that I want to work with. Because that's the kind of beats that I want to make. I make beats that you feel even without words on them. I make beats that you feel that you just like listening to, And I want whatever artist, whatever vocalist I work with to give me that same vibe, that same personality.
What's the best way for producers to promote their work?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I feel like there's so many ways to go about it. I feel like it's still a classic and in perfect combination when you find the right artist to work with to bring your beats to life. Like a Macklemore and Ryan Lewis situation. I feel like it's a good way to promote yourself as a producer if you just put the music out. Just go through CD Baby or TuneCore or something like that and just make the work, tag it, and just put it out. Because as long as it's out there, at the least to be streamed, like somebody is listening to it. And I feel like just licensing it and putting it on YouTube by itself can really work. I think there's so many different ways that work. I think it just kind of depends upon how you're getting started. I think if you're trying to get started as a producer and you already have a social media following, then you may want to go straight to YouTube. I feel like if you are just trying to get established, you may want to just find an artist that already has a following that you can just really team up with and get work out. I feel like if you're an artist or if you're a producer and you just have beats and they're not licensed and you're just trying to just put something out there, I think you're going to want to just do something like SoundCloud and just word of mouth. I think any way can work. It just kind of depends upon where you're coming from. Technically, I've tried all of that because when I was first getting started, I just put the music out. Just get it out anywhere I can get it out. And I didn't really know a lot about the business act, licensing and making sure that you tag your stuff so people don't, use your stuff without permission. I didn't know about all that good stuff. But now, there's just so many different ways to get it out. And no matter what, they can all be productive. They all have their downsides, but they can all be productive if you just get it out.
Can you share your social media links and also where people can go to hear or purchase your music?
Yes, absolutely. I have an album available titled Honest, by myself, of course, Poetiq, and it is available on all major streaming platforms. It's going to be Tidal and Spotify and Amazon Music and YouTube Music, so definitely be sure to check it out. My next album, Renaissance, what I'm really ready for you guys to hear right now, and that'll be out on the same platforms. I also have a website, www.realpoetic.com. That's REALPOETIQ.com, and it'll actually be live tomorrow afternoon, and it'll have all my beats from the album on it, as well as my EPK and all of the musicians that I work with for my live shows. And you can find my Facebook. You can hit me up on Facebook. That's facebook.com/realpoetic, REALPOETIQ. You can see all my performances and music video on that, my single from Renaissance.
All right, I would like to give a very big thank you to my guests for joining me here today on Mixed and Mastered. As always, write your comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video.